morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us during our weekly hybrid MLS breakfast meetings. My name is Dora Leung, and I am your August program chair. Today, I just want to tell everyone, besides my real estate, my personal life, I keep it very low profile and secret. However, I have a very great supportive family, including I just promote him, my fiance, to be my husband this year. And also, my little daughter, she is going to turn to 21. And I have a senior cat, Maui. Okay, just a little bit about my story. So now let's give a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Attorney Johnathan Razbannia from West Coast Property Tax Appeal. Let me give a little introduction, a bio for our speaker today. Mr. Johnathan Razbannia is the founder of JMR Holding Inc., and his practices focus on real property taxation, land use, zoning, entitlement matters. He has over 18 years practices in local and state taxation matters, property tax appeals, and securing planning, zoning approvals. He is also an advisor to developers and investors in the development of mixed use, commercial and industrial, self-storage projects, and multifamily properties. He vigorously advocates for his clients before the Los Angeles City Planning Commission, Area Planning Commission, Zoning Administrators, Building and Safety Commission, Area Planning, and also and also Board of Equalization, City Council, County of Los Angeles Board of Supervisors, Orange County, Ventura, and Riverside County Hearing Office Appeals Board, and other governmental entities. Ms. Razbannia frequently educates the public through radio broadcasts on key changes regarding property tax laws, topics regarding land use and zoning. He has also been a featured speaker before various organizations, such as the Southland Regional Association Realtors, and has taught continuing education classes for CPAs and lawyers. He's also been selected to be on the Super Lawyers Rising Star list for several years. Let's give a round of applause for our guest speaker, Johnathan Razbannia, Esquire.
Welcome, San Gabriel Valley. Johnathan Razbannia here, attorney. I'm going to be giving you some enlightening information as much as we can on property tax appeals. It's going to be something that I think it's going to be very beneficial for everybody to hear today, and we're excited to be invited. Thank you guys for inviting me and having you here, and I hope to do many more presentations of educating you guys on the what type of laws and what type of opportunities there are out there. So I guess if we could turn the slide, go to the next. Okay, perfect. So basically our company was founded over 10 years ago, and I have over 18 years experience in doing property tax appeals. Basically, when it comes down to it, it's very important that the public has knowledge on how to protect your asset and how to be able to have the opportunity of saving money on property taxes. So basically, our firm has been doing property tax appeals in this arena for many years, and we have saved people thousands of dollars in property tax savings, and we're going to go into that a little bit more today. If we can go to the next. So the way that we're going to break down today, I know that I have a compressed amount of time. We're going to break down the different opportunities that someone can file a property tax appeal in the state of California. it's very important that you know your opportunities that you could avail yourself. So there are a couple different categories. First category is market value cases. Second category is new construction cases. Third category is change in ownership. Fourth category is misfortune and calamity. Fifth category is a base year dispute. And then we're going to talk about direct assessment analysis, key time frames, and dealing with the assessment appeals board versus the assessor's office. So the first thing that we want to discuss is Proposition 8. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but Proposition 8 states that property owners are entitled to a temporary reduction in their property taxes if the current market value is less than its assessed value. So I'm not sure if everybody understands what the difference is with market value and assessed value. So for example, let's say you have a property that's assessed at $3 million, but the value as of January 1st, 2014 is only $2 million. So what you can do is you can file or, have a firm such as us or, different firms out there. They can file what's called a Proposition 8 claim, or they call it a DIV claim with the Assessment Appeals Office. And that's the Board of Equalization. They have an appeals board, and then there's your local assessor's office. So basically, if you're successful in getting that appeal, if your assessed value is 3 million and the market value's, let's say, 2.5 million, your savings is about $6,000. So if you don't file that appeal timely, and we're going to talk about deadlines, then you would lose that amount of savings that you can get. Because every year by law, the property taxes go up to 2% per year. So let's say if you bought a property in 2015 and now we're in 2024. So you can take that 2% multiplied by the number of years. So that could be a 16% increase just in assessed value. But if we're in times like this, where, the interest rates have gone up, then you can have an adjustment in your property tax. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is another huge category that I'm sure a lot of people are not familiar with. Change in ownership. What does that mean? Okay, I'm going to give an example. Let's say, for example, you have two partners, A and B partner go buy a property under their own name. But later on, they decide to transfer that property into an LLC. They do that for a couple of different reasons. Maybe they do it for asset protection. Maybe they do it for loan purposes. But if they don't file the appropriate paperwork with the assessor's office, they can be assessed upwards of 100%. An example of that is I deal with this all the time. So let's say someone bought a property in 2000 for easy numbers, 500,000. Then they did that change in ownership. They transferred into the LLC in 2024. All of a sudden, that market value in 2024 was like $4 million or some ridiculous amount of money. But that may not be the market value. That's what the assessor's office determined with the market value. If you don't adequately file the correct deed, or file a COR with the assessor's office, or follow up with their correspondence, you will be reassessed. First of all, that assessment may not be proper, but if you don't attend to it, it will be assessed. So as we said, there's different things that trigger that. When you file it, you do a change of ownership, you record that. There's also a PCOR. If you don't file that PCOR and put in there are some notations that you put in there. Maybe it's for a trust. This happens all the time, right? Husband and wife own a property, they put it into trust, but they fail to file the deed, or they filed the deed, but they don't put the proper exemption on that deed. If they don't do these things, they will get reassessed. It's not if, it's when they will get reassessed. I'm dealing with this all the time. So I provided a handout for everybody here today, and Available advice, I encourage you guys to take a look at. There are certain exceptions that can be placed on the deed. If those are not done appropriately, then they will be subject to reassessment. And also, right now, if you don't put the proper exemption, you could be subject to your transfer tax. So that's something that's really important. The quarters office really become very stringent on having the proper codes in there. So I put a couple for you guys. These are some of the common ones that we see. Living trust, and then we also put portion interest. So again, these are sort of things that this can get hard, and it is very rampant right now. The assessor's office is extremely aggressive. So I just want everybody to know about it. The next slide, please. Okay. This is something that I'm sure a lot of people are not familiar with. Proposition 13. What is Proposition 13? Back in the 70s, there was voting that went ahead to basically protect people from property taxes. So in a lot of other states, such as Texas, they don't have tax caps. But in California, thankfully, there is what's called property tax. That basically doesn't allow the assessor's office to take the property tax up year over year, like by a new market value. There is a protection there. So the state has that. So we put an example. A property owner purchased the property for $1 million, but the assessed value is 1.4 million. So it's very important to know what Proposition 13 does. So let's say if you bought that property for $1 million, okay, sometimes if the assessor's office doesn't believe that that purchase price is in fact market value, will not have Prop 13 protection. So it's very important that if you don't just assume that, hey, I paid $1 million, I'm gonna get Prop 13 protection. You need to make sure that the supplemental bill that you receive accurately reflects your purchase price. If it does not reflect the purchase price that you paid, then you should definitely look into filing an appeal with the assessor's office. If you don't file that appeal, your Proposition 13 base year will be set at a different value. So I'm sure a lot of people don't understand that. So it's very important that you don't just take for granted that you paid X and that's what's going to be. In Los Angeles County, there's what's called transfer review. What does that mean? That means that when any property transacts. Okay. So any property that transfers in LA County that is not reviewed, it will be reviewed in LA County. So there's always what's called a transfer appraisal. So the County of Los Angeles will review that property and make sure that it's market value. So basically, they have some parameters. If the property is not, if they believe that the property is not within market value, then they will not give that purchase price. So just be mindful of that. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. This is much better. I'm now much louder, so I think everybody can hear me much better. New construction cases. Let me explain a little bit about this. New construction cases. The County of Los Angeles is very behind in what they call maintenance. So if you know anybody who's built, let's say, an apartment building, and they've held that apartment building, if the apartment building, let's say they built the apartment building and they spent X amount of dollars, the County of Los Angeles will review cost. They'll look at the market value and they'll determine a cost that should be associated with that. There will be what's called a supplemental assessment or an escape assessment that will be attributed to that property. So why is new construction cases so important? New construction cases are important because that will also establish a new base year value. So let's say, for example, someone bought vacant land for $1 million, okay? And then it took them about 2 years or 3 years to build that building. So the assessor's office, since they're behind, So let's say they bought the land in 2020 and then they completed the building in 2022. The assessor's office so, so the assessor's office, because they're behind, may not get to that assessment until 2024. But the certificate of occupancy of that property was in 2022. So what does the assessor's office do? They come back to 2022 and they come back and get them in arrears. So that means, let's say they believe that that property is now worth $3 million. Now that taxpayer, if they don't challenge it, they have a 60-day window from when they get that supplemental. So now they have to come back for 2022, 2023, and 2024. Now all of a sudden they're so behind. So if they do not take mindful of that 60-day window, you have 60 days from the date of receiving the supplemental bill or notice to file an appeal. So it's very important that people pay attention to this. They're very behind. I'm working with the regional offices almost on a daily basis. Now they're trying to accelerate the process. So again, I encourage everybody to be mindful of that. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is another big category. A lot of people don't know. When does this come up? It's called misfortune and calamity. This comes up when people have over $10,000 of damage. This has a 12-month date of loss window. So what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to give an example. So let's say, for example, someone had something near and dear to us, storm damage or some sort of storm damage. So in January and February, we had a lot of heavy rains, right? So people suffered a lot of damage. So a lot of people had like 50,000, 100,000, multiple hundreds of thousands of damage. If they don't file a claim with LA County within 12 months, they will lose their right of a misfortune and calamity appeal. It's actually not an appeal. It's a form that is filed with the County of Los Angeles. Another example is, let's say, for example, you had fire damage. And this gets complicated when the property does not entirely burn down or has excessive damage. Okay. So there are certain formulas that go into effect in calculating this, but anybody that has fire damage or any type of damage that really hurt the building, I encourage you to file that claim with the County of Los Angeles. If you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to guide you on how this works. But a lot of people don't know that this exists. So again, if anybody has any damage over $10,000 within 12 months of date of loss, or if they have an insurance claim, a lot of people have insurance claims, but what do they do? The number one thing, they run to their insurance adjuster or they go to a public adjuster. But what don't they do? They don't think about filing some sort of relief for their property tax. Why not get relief for their property taxes if they can't avail themselves of their property? So this is something that I want everybody to understand and know about. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is another big category, which I'm sure a lot of people don't know about. Direct assessment analysis. What does that mean? Okay, on a lot of your property tax bills, if you're this actually comes into effect more with commercial property ownership. So let's say, for example, you have a client or someone you know owns a car wash or certain parts that are in unincorporated LA County. So if they have, let's say they have what's called a sanitation fee, when you look at your property tax bill, do not take for granted that you should pay everything. Just because the government or the taxing authority is putting something on your bill, do not just say, hey, it's there, I must pay it. There's something on the bill which is called sanitation fee. If you look at that, we've highlighted it, okay? And in a lot of these different areas, they have what's called sanitation district charges. Those can be challenged. And some of those are really high. Sometimes they're 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. And this is something that can be reviewed based on water consumption. Right now, there's a lot of different ways of
that are people are saving money. Some are not spending as much on their properties as far as water. And we can file basically claims to save money. And that is with the sanitation authorities. So this is something that I want everybody to know about and pay attention. Do not take this lightly. This is something that can really impact the valuation of your property. If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay. So this is something that I want to discuss with everybody today. Commercial property tax evaluation. How does this work? And what's the difference between commercial property tax evaluation and residential single family home evaluation? Okay. When we talk about this, when we are analyzing commercial property taxes, what do we look at? We analyze the rent rolls. We need to see how the property is performing. Okay, so we'll look at that for the rent roll for 2 to 3 years. We'll also look at the profit and loss statement for 2 to 3 years. We'll look at current photographs of the property. What you see in CoStar is not always an accurate depiction of that property. Maybe there's something inside the property there's something wrong inside the property. Maybe the square footage is overreported or underreported. Again, maybe there's deferred maintenance. So whenever we look at commercial properties, we look at all of these items and we analyze. That's how we analyze the valuation of properties. We must look at all of these things as the underlying part, and then we look to the market. Timing of leases. Now, everybody here knows that commercial properties are in right now, because of capitalization rates, and there's a lot of properties right now that are underwater, and people that can't fill up their spaces. If you just look around the valley, you see a lot of properties, retail properties vacant. That is killing property owners. So if that space is vacant and we're looking at the market, let's say 2-3 years ago, the market was getting $2 a square foot. Now that same property or that vicinity is getting $1.50. Well, guess what, folks? The property tax value is going to get affected. Just because you have an in-place tenant that you may think is paying more and is above the market, that does not mean that's what the market condition is. Okay? That's why it's very important to have a professional to review the rent roll, see who the tenants are, look at the terms of the lease. Is it triple net? Is it modified gross? Is the market changing? Maybe the market used to be triple net. Now it's modified gross. Whenever we do a property tax appeal, the type of lease drives the valuation of that appeal. Let's say I did last week I had an appeal. It was a commercial center. The taxing authority was saying, no, the market condition is triple net. And I said, no, this is a modified gross property. Because we were able to prove that that property was modified gross, that saved the property tax owner over $10,000 a year, because we're able to prove that. Just because we're able to say, no, it's not triple net. The assessor's office continuously pushes. I've been doing this for years. Do you think mom and pop properties are getting triple net? No. Mom and pop properties can't even fill their properties. They're dying just to get a tenant. Do you think that an office property is going to get triple net? Do you think a retail property, just because it's coded as retail, is going to get triple net? Absolutely not. So you must fight for your right, or you will lose. So that's something that we are constantly battling, and we encourage you to not take this lightly, especially in this world that we have. If you know someone that has a commercial property, at this time, they must be evaluating the property. They cannot just say, hey, we believe it's market value. You should always check the value of your property. If we can go to the next slide, please. The Assessment Appeals Board versus the Assessor's Office. What is the difference? The Assessment Appeals Board is governed by the Board of Equalization. Okay? The assessor's office is more of an informal agency. Whenever we file formal appeals, that is done with the Assessment Appeals Board office. If you file something with the assessor's office, you have absolutely no protection. Sometimes you see something, there's a form that comes in the mail. If you believe that you're filing that appeal, that is not an appeal. What that is, that's just an informal way of the assessor's office looking at something. If they come back and say, hey, we're denying that, and you do not have an appeal file, that means that you do not have your right protected with the Assessment Appeals Board office. So this is something that, again, this is something, an educational session that we want to make sure that everybody knows that if you want to have your property protected, you must file with the Assessment Appeals Board, not the assessor's office. The assessor's office, okay, they have appraisers. Their job is essentially, I cannot say this, but they're not there to help you. Okay, they are on the other side, and they are trying to they're trying to, let's say, find fair market value, that what they believe is fair market value, not what the true fair market value is. So you must be careful of where you file with. To have absolute protection, you want to file with the Assessment Appeals Board. Don't just call your local assessor's office and say, so let's say, for example, you get a supplemental bill and you immediately call the assessor's office. And let me tell you something, the assessor's office keeps records of everything. If you call them and you give them your parcel number, that, depending on who that appraiser, the appraiser of the day is, they will start tracking that number. If you give your name, these are things that could, not say that they will, but it could go into the parcel jacket, or they could take notes on it. So let's say, for example, you had something like you did an addition, okay? But you don't know what you're doing, but you're like, oh my God, it went so high. You call them and you start blurting out information to them. Oh, but you have no idea. Maybe you're going to go give costs to them. You're going to just go give the farm to them. Oh, they're like, thank you, taxpayer. You just now, now we have something. So if you want to file a formal appeal, now you're stuck. Now, if you're like, oh my God, that's not the information I should have given them. But if you give too much and you don't know what you're giving, it's just like in any case, right? If you have a case and you say too much, that can hurt you. So it's very important to know what you're doing. So these are things that, again, we want to make sure that everybody has a equal bite at the apple. It's not fair to be one-sided. So if you give the power to the assessor's office and you take it away from yourself, you're hurting yourself. So again, that's why we want to make sure to inform the public, get out there and spread the word. There's a lot of things that that everybody needs to know. If we can go to the next slide, please. Key timeframes. These are very important key timeframes that we want to talk about. Supplemental assessment appeal. If you buy a property, okay, and let's say you bought a property in August, there's dates in which the assessor's office work transfers. You may not get your real bill, which is called a supplemental bill that determines your Proposition 8 value. You may not get that for 9 months. If you get that bill and you see that that enrolled value is not what you believe is fair market value or something that you paid for, then you should be challenging that within 60 days. Or alternatively, let's say you bought that property or your client bought the property and you notice that there was a defect in the property. Let's say, oh, you uncovered something that the inspector didn't find. Now you're in litigation. That happens a lot, folks. A lot of times you find something and you need to protect yourself. So you may file a lawsuit, but you're not thinking of saving money on the property taxes. So let's say all of a sudden, you found something under the flooring, maybe something that's uncovered under the drywall. Maybe there's something structurally wrong. You can file an appeal for that. because there's a remediation cost. A lot of people don't know about that. So that's something that's very important to know in that 60-day period. Misfortune and calamity, you have 12 months from the date of loss. So again, these are things that we talked about, 12 months. Base year appeals. So this might surprise you. You have 4 years from the date of purchase or date of when they essentially enroll that value to file an appeal. So let's say, for example, for easy numbers, you bought a property in 2020. If you're in the regular filing year, 2024, you can still file on the base year. So let's say you just noticed, like, you contacted a professional and they're reviewing your property taxes, and they say, hey, Madam Taxpayer, Mr. Taxpayer, did you know that the assessor's office did not enroll what you paid for the property? You're like, wow, that's a surprise to me, but that happens all the time. You can actually file an appeal within 4 years of that purchase price. A lot of people don't know about that. So this is something that I want everybody to know about. And again, another very important thing is I want everybody to know, depending on the county in which you're filing for. Right now, because San Gabriel's in LA County, we're going to talk about the filing periods for that. The filing period for filing an appeal opened July 2nd, and it closes November 30th of the calendar year. Sometimes it goes to like December 1st or December 2nd, depending on when the if it falls on a weekend. So this is something that if you know anybody that owns a commercial property, let's say if they own a multifamily property, they own a industrial property, they own a retail strip center, they own a single family home, they should look at potentially filing. But I would not file unless it's been reviewed appropriately, because I'm not saying that every property should be filed. I'm saying that that property should be reviewed and made sure that it has some sort of chance of being filed. But if you don't ask, and I always say this to my wife and my kids, if you do not ask, you will never know about if you have a chance of appealing. If you just take for granted that the assessed value is what the market value is or what you should be paying, you're going to lose every time, every single time. So this is something that, again, I want to make sure and stress that if you own especially commercial properties in this market condition, that you're looking to file an appeal. I'm going to give an example. Let's say everybody knows that the interest rates have gone up significantly, correct? Everybody in this room knows that over the past year and a half, that the SOFR has gone up almost 500 basis points. Everybody knows that the prime rate has gone up significantly, tracking. What has that done? That's affected the interest rates. If the interest rates have been affected, then the cap rates have obviously been affected, right? Cap rates affect the market value of a property. So let's say 2 years ago, the cap rate was at 4%. Now, all of a sudden, the cap rate is at 6%. You're talking about a 200 basis point difference with the cap rate. That affects the market value of the property. You could have like a, depending on whatever the value is, like a 200 spread in value could be millions of dollars of change in value. But if you don't file an appeal, again, you lose. So this is something that's very important. Also, dependent on the county that you are sitting in, the tax rate also affects the market value, not the market value, but your assessed value. Every different city, this is something I want to educate everybody on. Did you know that different cities have different tax rates? A lot of people just think, oh, the tax rate is 1.25%. But that's not true. Depending on where your property sits, it could be 1.12, could be 1.15. In like places like Huntington Park, it's 1.4. Imagine a 1.4% tax rate. So if you don't file and you have a property in Huntington Park that, for example, went down significantly, that's thousands of dollars that you could be saving. So again, these are just certain things that I want everybody to know. I could go on and on. Typically, my presentations can go an hour, but I just wanted to give some nuts and bolts about the way the property tax works. And I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation, and I welcome any questions. Thank you very much for your time and appreciation.
Thank you so much for wonderful, informative presentations. Are there any questions? We have a very short questions and answer. I will allow one or two. If you have more, I would like you can stay at the end, and our attorney Johnathan Razbannia will be here. And you have
30 seconds.
thank you, Jesse.
Hi. Hi, Jonathan. Nice presentation. Sylvia here. Question is, once a trust has been tampered with, first of all, is it the attorney's responsibility to inform the person that they need to take these steps? Because it could be their tax bracket could be impacted. Number one. Number two, follow-up question is, once the tax, if they don't take these channels and their taxes do get assessed, is it reversible?
Absolutely. It's kind of a loaded question, but whenever I deal with estate planning attorneys all the time, it should be the job of the estate planning attorney to inform their client that there is a potential, if it's not filed appropriately, or if they get paperwork, that they should be attending to it. So it's not the estate planning's attorney's job to protect them for property tax purposes, but they should be letting them know that there's going to be paperwork coming from the assessor's office to appropriately file an appeal or to provide the paperwork to the local assessor's office for them to review it. Second question is it reversible? Yes, it is reversible. If you do get in contact with the assessor's office, or you hire someone to look over the paperwork and file an appeal or work with ownership services, that is retroactive, and it can be reversed. Yes, it can.
We have another one, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome presentation. My question is for ADUs, what are you seeing in the trends? Any tips on how ADUs are incorporated into the property tax?
Absolutely. ADUs are 100% taxable. We haven't seen like crazy hits on ADUs, but depending on, it's something that, this can affect mom and pops a lot more. So let's say, for example, they just put some like really high ADU assessment on it. You'll get a supplemental bill. Just like if you, let's say, for little things like swimming pools or additions, you'll get a supplemental. You should be looking at potentially filing an appeal if appropriate.
Thank you. On behalf of the West and Gabriel Valley Realtor, I would like to thank you, our wonderful guest speaker, for his wonderful, informative presentation. Please accept this as a small token of appreciation. So please join us next week as we welcome our wonderful guest speaker in August, Monterey Park Mayor Thomas Wong. His topic will be City of Monterey Park update. Thank you everyone for joining our meeting today. Have a wonderful, productive day. This meeting is now adjourned.